So, welcome everybody to episode 2 of Growing Pains. Today we have Sarah Melody on with us. She's our guest today, and we're gonna talk about her various business ventures. I know she's got several things on the go, and she's quite amazing at what she does. So, hello, Sarah.
Hi, Hayden. Thanks for having me.
No, no worries, no worries. Thanks for coming on. All right. So let's talk about your business journey. Where did you start?
Well, I laugh about that because I think I forget sometimes of the years I put in at the age of 14 being a musician first. And it was only more recently that a peer of mine was like, Sarah, you've been running your own business since you're 14. I was like, no, I haven't. And just forgetting that being an artist and being a musician is actually a form of running a business. So at the age of 14, I started a music career and I've been active in the music scene for over the last 16 years. And you can put the math together and figure that out on your own. But my most recent venture as an entrepreneur is I've been focusing on my yoga studio over the last year and a half now. It's called Anahata Yoga from the Heart, and we're a studio in Barrie, Ontario. So I went from music, went into tour management and the business side of the entertainment scene, and then branched out to health and wellness.
That's a crazy journey. I know my journey with the music industry as well has been kind of all topsy turvy. I started playing when I was 12 years old in bands, and ended up being in the back scene of the music industry as well. Still currently there. I wrote a grant last night for a not-for-profit Ontario Musicians Cooperative. Both just context, both Sarah and I sit on the board of directors for a not-for-profit called Ontario Musicians Cooperative, and it's essentially to help build capacity in young emerging artists to have successful careers. So that's something else that we both do. um, yeah, it's kind of wild that the music industry really preps you for a lot of the hard parts of being an entrepreneur. It's probably one of the hardest things you could do to try to make a living at. So you did some like tour managing stuff. Why don't you tell us about that real quick?
I kind of want to piggyback on what you just said
Yeah,
about
sure,
the
go for
whole
it.
the music industry part. I kind of joke about how I don't think you fully ever leave music, but maybe I left it in the sense of doing it full time, and I went into another industry that is equally challenging, being in wellness and yoga, and so in both streams and both paths that I've chosen, they both have similar challenges and yet very different. And to piggyback on what you were saying, Hayden, in terms of the music industry, musicians can be introverts and they don't always want to learn the business side. And you and I have connected through OMCI and through that business side. So I would like to say is that as a musician first, it's a huge challenge to get over that hump of knowing your business and not just your craft. So for me, I wanted to learn how to manage myself as an artist, which then I went to college and university for music business. And that essentially got me into tour management. I received a scholarship to study abroad in Scotland. So I lived there for a year and ended up doing a BA, a Bachelor of Arts in Commercial Music, which essentially is music business. When I was there in Scotland, I spearheaded a tour management company with two other peers that I was studying with. And we tour manage acts from Germany and France and Canada in Scotland, mainly in Glasgow. But we first started just working around doing a small school tour and then branching out to venues. So I gained a lot of experience with that. When I moved home, I kind of went through this, I don't know if you want to call it a reverse culture shock or just trying to fit back into my old norm and realize that maybe being a musician wasn't my focus anymore. So I started being an events coordinator and a tour manager for a not for profit at the time called Nathaniel Deck Chorale. And they were Afrocentric choir. So I was their tour girl, and we did shows at the Library of Congress in the States, and we did shows at the Royal Conservatory of Music at Kerner Hall. So at a pretty young age, I think I must have been 20, two at that time. I was stage managing these very prestige shows and just learning the in and outs of the back end of the industry. So I absolutely loved it. And then from there, without going through my whole resume, I then ended up working at a not for profit, another not for profit, Free the Children, now known as We Org or We Movement. And I was there for about just over 3 years and had several different roles. But my main focus when I was there was tour managing the Women's Empowerment Tour, which was essentially an 11-week tour across North America, where I was managing women from Kenya that just got off a flight, never been to North America before, dressed up in their full Maasai attire, and having to introduce them to this new culture and being responsible for their meals, responsible for their whole schedule, getting them to and from places, booking the events, booking our travel, managing a budget. I won't mention how much that was, but I was still only a 24, and they're like, here's your budget, go manage it and make sure you stay in the budget. And I actually came under budget, which was awesome. I think I saved like the organization at the time like $7,000, and that's still a lot of money.
Wow,
So
wow, that is a lot of money.
I treated that like my own house or my own baby. So every time I spend something, I was like, do we really need to spend this? And I learned a lot, and which has essentially allowed me to open my own business and really be mindful of that. Yeah.
Wow. So tell me a little more about the journey from doing tour management and stuff like that to opening up your own yoga studio. What decided, hey, I'm gonna open a yoga studio?
Well, I think a lot of the time we can have a dream, we can have a vision. Doesn't mean we're always going to follow it. I kind of fell into opening a studio. Um, the very candid answer to that was after being on the road for so long, I burnt out. And on social media, it looked very appealing and exciting to family and friends. And they would comment being like, Sarah, you're so lucky. Like, you've been to Seattle, you've been to Vancouver, I even went to Kenya and Ecuador. And what they didn't get to see behind all that was like, but I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
So
well, there's another aspect to touring, and that, for the musicians listening out there, that there's a real reality of touring is that you think you're going to see all these great places. You're going to go there, but you're going to see it from the window of a bus.
yeah, window of a bus or a hotel, or in my case, the venue, spending
Yeah.
with WeOrg and We Day at the time, spending hours in the venue and
Hmm.
not even knowing what the weather was outside because there's so many hours put in to that process. Side note, I always joke and I always share this with family and friends is in the midst of that tour, the Women's Empowerment Tour, I was so busy taking care of other people all the time. I wasn't taking care of myself. And a peer on that tour bumped into me in the hallway of the hotel and was like, Sarah, where are you going? I'm like, I have to go to the next event. Like, we're going to be late, just in like rush mode. And really being a tour manager, you actually become a babysitter and you become a mom and you become all of these other roles that you might not have experienced before that. So I was rushing off. And a part I didn't mention is I was also managing young women as well from the ages of 13 to 17. So I had two different elements to it. A older woman, Maasai woman from Kenya, who, maybe in mid 40s. And then I had these two younger girls also from the Maasai in Kenya from the Kisaruni school who had never been to North America either. So I was not only managing an older demographic, but a younger demographic, and at the age of 24. So I remember being in this hotel and a peer is like, where are you going? I'm like, I have to run to the next event. She's like, Sarah, I need to tell you something. I'm like, what? Like, I don't have time for this. She's like, you have a knot on the back of your head. Your hair is all knotted. I'm like, oh. She's like, can I comb it for you? And I was like, okay. So I wasn't taking care of myself. I was rushing, hopping in the shower, letting my hair dry, throw my blazer on, hop off to the next event.
Hmm.
So through all of that, I essentially burnt out because I wasn't making a priority for my own health, my own fitness. On the road, a lot of your meals are eating wraps or rice or repeating the same meal all the time. And another thing was I'm vegetarian and I was taking care of women from the Maasai who were wanting chicken every single night. So I'd feed them first and feed myself last. True mom experience. So essentially, I ended up burning out. I came back home and just went through this period of like, what am I doing? I need to slow down because this is not healthy. And physically, too, I think we forget about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about mental health now because that's what got me into yoga is that physically, I know it shouldn't matter what's on the scale, but I was the heaviest weight of my life because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was just eating as I was going. I was on the run, throw something in your mouth, just like get the job done to fuel
Hmm.
yourself.
That was like me quite recently, actually, and I've had to flip that around. So I had to kind of get a hold of my health because I was just trying to do so much, and
Mhm.
it's wild. Once I got a hold of that, like once I started doing better with my diet, like having a workout regimen and doing that stuff, I'm actually more productive than when I was running myself ragged and not eating properly. It's crazy, and I'm not tired from it. It's wild.
Absolutely. We think about the car, right? The car needs fuel to run. If you get to that empty, it starts to chug. We never
Hmm.
think about that. I shouldn't say we never, but in the midst of that, I wasn't thinking about myself. I'm just thinking, I got
Hmm.
to get the job done. I got to be productive. I need to, I was doing something like 16-hour days. I remember one event where I slept at the venue, had a nap, and then went and did the whole event. So that was exhausting. So after being on the road, after a couple years of that lifestyle, living out of a suitcase for 5 months out of the year, I essentially burnt out. And I remember experiencing like in my anxiety, which I thought was just normal. I thought it was just, that's how it was supposed to run. And the adrenaline created so much anxiety. The second I handed my phone back from being a tour manager, I remember having this almost phantom brain of hearing someone talking to me in my headset, but they weren't there anymore, or hearing my phone go off, but it wasn't in my hand anymore. This weird I don't even know what you want to call it, just this weird stage afterwards of feeling unneeded and not having the go, 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 the rush. And I finally slowed down and realized this is not healthy. Like I need to change something. So, I was diagnosed with having mild anxiety, and a lot of us do struggle with that, but it became a constant thing I was living with daily. So part of that journey, when I, decided to make that shift in my career, I left that job. And at the same time, I actually went through a breakup. And it's very challenging to be on the road and have a relationship as it is. But I had two big life changes at the same time and was just really struggling, trying to refine my purpose, redefine who I was, and realize I was so defined by my job that I no longer knew who I was. So that actually led me into dealing with my mental health. And I spoke to my doctor and I said, why do I react this way? How can other people do 16-hour days and not become me? And she essentially said they don't. But it's hard to see that. So in that time, I said to my doctor, I'm like, I need to learn how to have more work-life balance. I need to learn how to manage my stress. I need to learn how to manage my anxiety. And she sent me to the mental health day program here in Barrie. And it's taken me a while to actually speak up about that. I was really ashamed about it for a long time. I was ashamed to say that I struggled with mental health, but it was a big part of my journey. And during that time of going to the RVH for that program, I learned so much about myself. I got myself back on a routine and tried to figure out what works best for me. And in that time, that's where I found my yoga. I
Hmm.
practiced yoga on and off for years and thought, it does help. I feel really good when I do it, but I wasn't making the time for it. And
Hmm.
actually, when I was tour managing, when we were in town, you know how you said, Hayden, about you never really get to see the town. The
Yeah.
one thing I would do for myself is I started a new rule that I wanted to try a yoga studio in each city I was in. So I did do that for a while. That was actually quite insightful. And it really helped me just have that hour of like, this is my me time, this 1 hour. And then I'd go back and rush and go on to the next city or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
that
mean
helped.
to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I want to pedal back just a little bit. So, well, touching on mental health. So like recently, I was diagnosed with a couple things. I was diagnosed with, and this is just what the test said, but severe depression and ADHD, which is kind of crazy. And, I had been operating with that for my entire life essentially. And, I had gotten a lot accomplished even with that, mental health disability, but I never thought I had it. Like I always kind of denied it. And once I got it diagnosed and I knew that's what it was, I was able to take the next steps to take care of it. And I will tell you, in the last month that I've been taking care of that, I've been more productive in this 1 month than I have in the last 2 years, which is unbelievable. I've gotten far more done than I could ever do. Um, and I really want to say, like, any entrepreneurs who are listening, if you have, if or feel like you have mental health issues, don't be ashamed about it, and get the help that you need, because it's extremely important. And when you do take care of it, and when it finally subsides, the amount you can do in less time, because it's not hindering you, will amaze you. And you just feel happy about everything that you're doing, and it's a lot easier to make the decisions you need to make. Um, and that's kind of what I've learned in the last like month and a half of me going down that journey. Just similar to how you started going to yoga when you're stressed out during tour managing, it was kind of similar. Actually, funny story, I started doing yoga with Sarah on Thursdays, and it's really really hard.
Okay, well, don't go tell people it's hard. I really try to make it inclusive, but I first want to
Um,
acknowledge Hayden, like, thank you for speaking up about mental health because there is still a stigma with it. And even 5 years ago, when I was struggling with this, my friends and my family didn't fully get it yet. There wasn't as much conversation around it. And maybe that's just my experience. Maybe there was, but in the area that I was in and the people I was around at that time,
mhm.
even 5 years ago, it was like, okay, like we know you have that problem, but let's just be quiet about it. And it actually
Yeah.
became harder to manage it because it was like, well, why should I be quiet about it? Does that mean there's something wrong with me? And
Yeah, I totally get that. I grew up in a house with my dad being like super old school, like mechanic guy, right? So, I distinctly remember being like 13 years old, and getting bullied a lot and stuff like that, and going to my dad and going like, "Hey dad, I think I'm like depressed or something." And him going, "No, that you're not depressed. You don't know what depressed is. You're a kid, suck it up, be a man." And I was like, "All right." And I kind of pushed those feelings down for a long time, and it wasn't until like the last couple of years that I've really started to acknowledge it, and then now finally taking care of it, which is huge.
absolutely. And our parents were just doing the best that they could because they didn't experience it the way we're experiencing it, part of their generation. They don't have the constant, or they didn't have the constant connection, the overstimulation, the I have to fit in or look like this or do this. Like, we're overstimulated. And so my parents were really supportive and helpful during my path, but they didn't understand it. They're now understanding. I actually think it's beautiful now being able to go online. And right now, with which what's currently happening, if in this time of social distancing, when we're recording this podcast, my own father is my own dad is on Facebook and he sees this community where I'm talking about my mental health, and he's finally speaking up about it. He's like, I didn't understand how hard it was for you.
Hmm.
So they have to come to terms with it as well, right? If they haven't experienced it themselves, they're not necessarily going to know how to support you. I want to go back to what you said about being bullied. I wasn't necessarily bullied for that, but at a young age, being 11, I remember I I just thought it was odd. And when I've done my work now, I've realized my anxiety stemmed from that younger age, and most likely came from, parents' divorce and separation, even though I had a really great upbringing. But those anxiety and those tendencies started at that age and just built into my adult life. And so I'm really grateful that I did take that path of trying to manage my anxiety, manage my stress, and learn about it, which then led me into yoga. I started practicing regularly. And after the mental health day program, I was going probably every day to a local studio. And one day, funny enough, went away on vacation, try to get away from everything and do like a reset because that tends to be our thought process. Like, I just have to get away from everything and it'll be better or have a new perspective. I took a vacation. My mom had a friend that lived in Costa Rica or still lives there. And she was really great and offered me, a place to stay. And I just had a week of almost redefining myself, rediscovering myself, and went away and was in the sunshine. And one thing I would like to say is just because you're in the sunshine doesn't mean your mental health just goes away. It's still with you. Your depression comes with you, your anxiety
Hmm.
comes with you.
It follows you everywhere.
It absolutely does. And that's another thing. Parents are like, "Oh, you're in the sun. Like, how can you be depressed?" Well, if it's something that you're living with, it doesn't just
Hmm.
flip a switch and go away.
Yeah, well, I'm in the sun. How can you be depressed? Because I'm thinking about that time 3 years ago where I was in the sun and this bad thing happened.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's living in you. So at that time on that trip, our family friend took me to take a yoga class in Costa Rica. And at the time, I just started practicing regularly. And I thought, sure, I'll go take this class. We show up to the beach, and we get there, and she gets a text message from the teacher saying, "Oh, sorry, I'm not feeling well. There won't be a yoga class today." So I've already been dropped off at the beach. I don't have a car. I don't really have any means of getting around here. And I've been told by my mom's friend she'll pick me up in an hour. And I think I can't remember all the logistics, but anyways, I was with another fellow Canadian on that trip, and I just said to her, I'm like, I go to yoga back home. Do you want me to like do a class for us? And she's like, okay. So we did a class, and probably about 45 minutes in, or whatever time is at that point, she kind of looked up at me and said, have you done this before? I'm like, no, never. And she's like, that was pretty good. I'm like, it was? She's like, yeah, I understood everything you said and that everything you directed me to do. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, have you thought about being a teacher? I'm like, no, like, don't you have to go to India for that or Bali for that? And then she started laughing too. And I'm like, just so oblivious. And she's like, you should think about that. I'm not even kidding you, Hayden. I came back home a week later, went to the local studio, and there was a posting. It said yoga teacher training. And I've never seen it before. And I was like,
Y-
okay,
so it's
how
just
about
that's so interesting because so I listen to a lot of like Gary V and stuff like that, and he's brilliant. I love what he does. And like something happened today when I was watching his show, and it was this one girl who had tweeted him 4 years ago and asked him to like about a question. He said, "Yeah, let's talk about it. Give me a call." And she didn't call him for the 4 years, and she said she thought about it every time that she wanted something. She thought about calling him, but she would know what he would always say whenever she did that. Now she's at the 10-year anniversary of her not for profit, and she called and she finally retweeted him saying, "Hey, let's talk." 4 years later, and got on his show just to thank him for the things that he's done over the years, and he saw it. That's how she got on the show. So it was kind of serendipitous of when you put something out there, some good stuff into the world, that when it'll come back to you, right? So, and that's one thing as entrepreneurs, on that beach in that moment, you found your truth,
it?
and when you got back home, it came to you. So, when people are looking to start their business, and you're not sure what you want to start a business, but you're not sure what business you want to start, find that truth, and it'll come to you, right? And it's not like you don't have to work for it. You absolutely have to work for it. But yeah, there's not just an easy button, but it will present you with opportunities, right? So just like you, where you're like, hey, that was really cool. I kind of want to do that. Going home and seeing that post, the time you got home, it's the same way as when I was like, hey, I want to help business owners, and I'm not really sure how to do that. And I know we haven't talked about COVID yet, but as awful as this pandemic is, it presented me the opportunity of, hey, a lot of small business owners are really hurting right now, and I can help them in this moment. And that was kind of that serendipitous opportunity where it was like, all right, let's make light of, well, not make light, but let's take the opportunity that's being presented here, and help people get through these times. And it's really interesting how in the words of Jeff Goldblum, like life finds a way.
Mhm. And maybe that post was there before, or maybe there was opportunity for that girl on and with that tweet before. It's just a matter of where you are in your life. I don't even want to say journey, but where you are in that state, that mind state, their mindset, sorry, that you're at. And maybe it was there before and I wasn't paying attention, and it just happened. So I really, as cliche as it sounds, I do think things do happen for a reason. It's a matter of if you're listening.
Absolutely, absolutely, things happen for a reason, and you just got to put it out there, right?
I think back to music, and this came to mind this week as well. And I know, again, connecting you and I to OMCI, Ontario Musicians Corporative Inc., hearing young artists say about, I wish I started sooner, or I wish I took all the opportunity and all the gigs. These are
Hmm.
things we've been conditioned to say, I believe at least.
Hmm.
And there's a reason why you didn't take those at those times, because a lot of the time, if I didn't take a gig, something else would happen. Something else would fall on my plate. I
Hmm.
remember, at a young age, there's this one big gig in particular, and I just don't think I was ready for it. So I said no.
My biggest thing with young musicians is they're going, I'm losing time, I'm losing time, I'm losing time, and I'm like, your life's just started.
Yeah.
You're in
You
your
know
late
what?
teens, early 20s. Like your life has just started. Like a good example is like for a male in the music industry, you don't hit your prime until you're 32,
Mhm.
right? That's like the start,
Well,
right?
people are also probably laughing at you and I right now on this call. I'm 30, and I know you're younger than me. And other
Yeah,
people are probably laughing and saying, like, you two are still young. And
absolutely. We have 3 lifetimes ahead of us.
absolutely, I come from, I have to say, I come from a background of a family business, so that really did help me as well with
Hmm.
my vision. But my family didn't start until their early 40s, and I've started mine when I was 28, or as we were joking at the beginning, when I was 14, as being a musician. So
Hmm.
I think, this might be a sidetrack a little bit, but getting rid of timelines, or I should have done this or should have done that, because maybe you just weren't ready. Maybe you just weren't looking yet for those things,
Hmm.
open to it. Same thing
Patience
with
is
yoga.
key.
Hmm.
It's all about that long game. It's not about short-term wealth or, get rich quick. It's all about that long game, and you just gotta have to strap in and get ready for the ride because it's gonna take you there, right? You'll get there eventually, and it doesn't matter your age. You could be 60 and start a business and still become successful. Like, you know what? I'll refer to the Billy Joel song Vienna, right? Where that song was written because he was in Vienna and he was looking down the streets and you could see that, there was this old lady, maybe in her 80s, and she was sweeping the road in front of a shop. And there was, a couple more older people doing odd jobs around the town while the younger people did the harder stuff. And and he realized that everybody in Vienna, no matter what your age was or what your physical abilities were, you had a purpose
Hmm.
and you had a place, and that's why the line Vienna waits for you is in there because there's always something for you there, right? And it's kind of that like life sense of, hey, doesn't matter what age you are, right? If you're young, if you're old, if you're in between, if you're in a midlife crisis, if you're in a quarter life crisis, that there's always something there for you, and it doesn't, and your age is really irrelevant.
Well, and as in yoga, we would say, what's your talk? What's your dialogue? So you would say to a friend, you have an idea, that's amazing. Like, you should start that. But it's a lot harder to say to yourself and get out of your own way and say, yeah, that's a great idea. I should start that. One thing I would like to say to entrepreneurs is, like, it's not that easy. It's not that glamorous or easy. If especially in this COVID time, if it's teaching us anything, before people would be like, oh, you're so lucky you run your own business, you get to be your own boss. You have to be okay with running your own business, that you always have to answer the phone. You
Mhm.
don't get a weekend. Even if I try to schedule a weekend, I don't get a weekend. I'm still answering the phone, replying to emails, doing social media posts, and those things might not seem that hard, but
100%.
just put your effort, even a couple hours on the weekend. Or I was, even during COVID a couple of weeks ago, I was on a hike on the weekend, and while I'm on the hike, I'm still getting text messages, emails, and calls about, hey, I can't get into this class right now. So then I have to stop my hike, quickly reply to that, and then go back to that
Yep.
moment. So you need to know that you have to be definitely open and flexible, and it is a 24/7
Hmm.
24/7 commitment.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And there's ways to mitigate it, so you can find time for yourself. But you're always on that grind. But here's the interesting thing I find about entrepreneurs, and something that I greatly respect in every entrepreneur I meet, is that the reason why they are entrepreneurs in the first place, business owners, musicians, artists, whatever have you, is because they love that grind,
Mhm.
right? I have some end goals I'd like to achieve in my career and with my businesses, but ultimately, I don't care if I ever get there. I just like the process. And that's something that, if I could give advice to any entrepreneur out there, it's to fall in love with the process.
Mm.
And because that's the biggest thing. If you don't love the process, you're not going to love being an entrepreneur or a business owner. That's flat out. That's just the not that is a cardinal rule, that if you don't love the process, you won't love to be in business.
My favorite piece of advice recently, and I feel like if we do this podcast again in another year, it'll probably be a different piece of advice. But I recently heard that you need to schedule time on your business and not always in your business. One
Yeah.
of the challenges I find being a yoga teacher and having to run the classes in addition to run my business is that I'm always teaching, then I don't always get to have that quality time on building my business. So here I am a year and a half into my business, and now we've got this new mix thrown in of taking my business online. I'm trying to be very much positive and grateful that I'm in an industry where I could take that business online. I know those that are in tourism right now, coming from my family business being in tourism years ago. I used to work for them, so I understand the ins and outs in that. And that's a struggle right now. You can't just flip that online. So I'm really grateful that in the wellness, yoga, and mental health, I was able to make that quick transition. Definitely doesn't look the same, but I'm trying to focus more on the positivity of what will this bring for us? What will bring for Anahata?
Hmm.
And back to our story earlier about seeing that post about yoga teacher training, the intention there was to heal myself. The intention there was to become a teacher, to continue my own mental health journey. And I think I never went with that intention of having a studio. I never
Yeah.
went with that intention of I'm going to teach others. I went with the intention of I'm going to help myself right now. And in that, I'm grateful that I'm doing
Oh,
something.
hold on. Okay, no, it's still going. Continue. Sorry about that. I thought the recording disconnected.
Okay, no problem. So I just wanted to just say, like, you need to find something that's going to get you out of bed in the morning. If you're going to become an entrepreneur, it needs to be something that, I don't even want to say just passion, because that word is misused sometimes. It needs something that drives you and that gets you up, that you want to work for, that you want to, you know, put your time in for.
Hmm.
Um, that's another thing I like to say is like, what drives you? And Simon Sinek would say, like, what's your why? So what is your why? My why is I want to serve other people, and by serving other people, I help myself in my business.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about your business. I know that you were in like a brick and mortar situation. You're doing classes and you're doing the regular thing that yoga studios do. Let's talk about your process about like migrating online. I know that's been difficult. I know that's been difficult, but I mean, what I see online right now, and for anybody watching, check out Anahata from the Heart, all their social media stuff. Sarah and her team are just killing it right now on social media, with their community and having the ability to do online classes. I mean, I've been doing them from the comfort of my living room, and it's been really awesome. So tell me about the process about getting that online.
Um, yeah, I think the first couple weeks was a lot of fear based. Should I be doing this? Do I need to just follow my peers? If I follow my peers, am I copying them? All of these questions came up as an entrepreneur, and all these blockages came up. And I had to realize that we're all in this together right now. We're all rediscovering our businesses right now. So we are going to have to, quote unquote, maybe copy our competitor because we don't know what we're doing. I took a week off, probably closer to 10 days actually. And I just told myself, like, I'm not going to be on social media. I'm not going to compare myself to other businesses. I also use a life coach once in a while for my business. And that's something I'm looking to branch into myself now, supporting others through my experience with music, tour managing, and now running my own business as a studio. And it's really great to have that accountability buddy or person. And she just said to me, she's like, Sarah, where 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 is time for you right now? You need to take care of yourself right now. So I was challenged to take 10 days. I lasted 6. I will admit to that. I took 6 days of self-care, no social media, no working at the beginning of COVID. And then I went into it fresh. And I just went and bought a Zoom account and started to invest in that. And I got on the blower. I started calling my clients. And I said, how are you doing during COVID right now? What are you doing for yourself? Would you be interested in online classes? In the beginning, a lot of them were like, no, 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 I'll just wait till we're open again. I don't think anyone realized where this was going to go. And I don't think anyone really knew the limitations we were going to have. So in the beginning, there was a lot of pushback of, no, I'll just wait till you open your studio doors. And those same students that said that in the beginning are now joining online. And it was just following up by email, sending a text message, calling them the old school way, the customer service knowledge in me. I just picked up the phone and
Yeah.
started doing that.
Oh yeah. So I have to tell people, like, you can't underestimate some of the old school things. So like with email, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of crap going in through email. While email still remains one of the best ways to market if you
Mhm.
have the list, um, yeah, it's there's still a lot of noise there. There's a lot of noise on social media. There's a lot of noise just in general. But one of the few things that don't have a lot of noise right now are text messages. And just picking up the phone and talking to somebody. You never underestimate the power of connection, of voice to voice or face to face. I know you can't do face to face right now because it's COVID, but just picking up that phone and talking to your customer saying, hey, where are you at? I'm concerned for you,
Mhm.
right? Showing that concern and not even asking for them to buy anything, just saying, hey, where are you at? And just making that genuine connection will, like, that will boost sales more than any kind of marketing campaign you can do on Facebook or social media. And it's crazy.
Absolutely. And that has definitely helped us in this time. And just going back to my why, like, we are a community. We're not just a yoga studio, we are a community. And
Hmm.
those people matter to me. Those relationships matter to me. So I've picked up the phone. I'll follow up with the text. Not everyone's going to pick up, and that's okay. And actually, the reverse of that, everyone has lots of time right now. So they are picking up the phone and they do want to hear a voice. And
Hmm.
most of the conversations have gone into 40-minute calls and talking about family and talking about what new
Yeah.
hobbies they picked up on. And it brought the humanness back in all of it. That
Hmm.
was so important.
Yeah, if I could put that out to any business owners listening to this, is that if you can connect with your clientele, with your audience, if you can connect with them on a human level and let them know that you are human, your business will grow exponentially
Mhm.
and continue to do that, right? Something that I've been doing lately on social media is I've been looking up, like, I live in Barrie, Ontario, so I've been looking up hashtag Barrie on various social media platforms and just commenting and talking with people, right? And getting to know the people in the atmosphere of the town that I live in, right? And connecting with it. And it's actually given me a lot of credibility with people because I'm doing that connection, and you got to put in that extra work, right? So a lot of people think, hey, I'm just going to put a post out and people are going to see it. That's not the truth. It doesn't Social media doesn't work that way anymore anyway. It used to be back in the day, 10 years ago, that's how it worked, but it doesn't work that way anymore. So the biggest thing that I'm going to tell people is just connect with other people, and that's the biggest thing is connection is huge, and starting a community like a Facebook group like you've done is huge too, because that's a place not only can they connect with you, the business owner, but they connect with other people who go to that business. And the nice thing is they don't feel awkward connecting with other people there because they have something in common,
Absolutely.
right?
And it's also allowed me to speak up about mental health again. The first couple weeks, I was so focused on how to flip this business online that I wasn't focused enough on what do people really need right now. And we're all going through this pandemic together of this new age of if you didn't struggle with mental health before, you're going to have a taste of it now. And if you don't know what that looked like before, how are you going to manage that after? And, maybe it's not yoga for everyone. I get that. It might not be yoga, it might be something completely different. But there is much more than just going to a class or going to a practice. And this is the time of community connection again. So I started speaking up about my mental health again, got really real with it and vulnerable. And I was so scared. I think the first post I sent, I felt sick to my stomach after I sent it because the old school in my head, back to, European parents just trying to do their best of being like, why do you have to share that? Why do you have to post that on social media? Why do you got to tell everyone your business? And I was just like, sorry for language, but screw it. Like I'm doing it. And I
Hmm.
posted that I'm really feeling for everyone right now, especially those living alone. I live alone. And I post in there, I had today a moment where I was just crying because of my anxiety and wanted to run to someone for a hug, and then cried even more when I realized there's no one to run to right now.
You have your puppy.
I have my puppy. She's really great. She's actually the reason I got her. Another that could be another podcast was for my mental health. I got my puppy for that,
Hmm.
and she is really great. But the human touch, the human connection, I was really really missing it. So I posted this on social media, and I heard from friends that I haven't heard from in forever, and I was like, oh no, that was not what I wanted. That was not my intention. Like I don't want anyone to worry. But what happened is that the dialogue became more authentic and
Hmm.
became more real, and other people started commenting me like, yeah, I feel you with that. I'm in the same boat, or I'm struggling because I am stuck with family at home right now and I don't have my own space. So the flip side of that, so we've the community has just grown in that sense. There's been more dialogue, there's been more connection. It's not just about yoga anymore, it's a safe space, and I hope that that's something we'll continue to foster when we're back in person. And I really feel like that was our brand from the beginning, but this has reminded us how important that branding is.
Yeah, branding is absolutely the first priority when developing a business, is to develop that brand and be, you touched on a point there of just being, genuine with what you're talking about, and getting really real with people. Like if you show somebody a fake persona, a person that you're not being, right, it's going to come off as a disingenuine. Like it's not going to come off well, and people know. Like you can post something fake and you cannot let, like, not know any, like, you could, let's say you know zero people in real life, right? And you craft this persona and you post it, and immediately people know that's not you.
Mhm.
And call it intuition, call it something, like something beyond our understanding, but like I know when somebody's posting something that's not them. And when you post something that is you, so true to you, that people see that, and they want to engage with that. They want to be part of whatever that truth is because they want to be true to themselves, right? Deep down in their subconscious. So if as a business owner, if you're posting on social media and you're trying to grow online, just be absolutely real. Be 100% real with people, and be you, and that'll attract all the people that you want in your business, which is just truly something really really cool. So we are getting to the tail end of where we go. I could talk all day about this stuff,
So could I.
which is amazing. So just to kind of like recap of what we've done, we've talked a lot about mental health and kind of staying true to yourself in this, and we've also talked about like developing that personal brand of that truth as well, and taking a major shift of where you were once just brick and mortar and then you went online. I just want to ask, like, how well has the online stuff been treating you? Like, has it been successful?
As an entrepreneur, you really have to redefine success and how you measure it. Monetary wise, not yet, but we are all struggling financially. So we've been really paying it forward and giving back at this time. And that was the original reason I went into yoga, was to help other people while I help myself.
Mhm.
But the success in terms of how smooth we were able to transition, and the fact that now not only am I teaching to members that used to come to the studio, we have new members. We have people in Sweden and in Brazil that have joined a class because they can now. And a
Yeah,
friend tells a friend, and then they're like, hey, can you join this class right now? And they send the link and they pay what they can for currently what we're doing for the month of May. And it's been so great of this connection going further than Barry. I've had my aunts join in. I've had old roommates join in. I've had friends from Free the Children from WeOrg join in that I haven't seen in years. And it's bringing that connection back. And that has been a huge eye opener of where this could go.
it's
So
so powerful.
I'm really grateful for that. Yeah,
It's so powerful, and I would call that successful. Money isn't always the measure of success,
absolutely not.
and if at the end of the day you are happy about what's going on and it makes you feel good, that's what success is to me anyway. So that's really awesome. I want to thank you, Sarah, for coming up today. This has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Hayden, for having me. And I feel like there will be many more conversations like this between us.
More probably, I wouldn't doubt it at all. Do you want to give a quick shout out to different social medias where people can find where to get it to a class or to just check out your stuff?
Great. Thanks for that. So we're Anahata Yoga from the heart.com. I realize that's a long address, or you can go to sarahmelody.com. That's Sarah with an H. On Facebook, you can join the Anahata Yoga community, or if you're more familiar with Instagram, we're Anahata Yoga Berry. So feel free to connect with us there, or I'm still very personable on email. So connect at sarahmelody.com. Connect like connection is where you can reach me personally if you have any questions.
Awesome. All right. Well, this has been the second episode of Growing Pains. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And if you have any questions that you want answered about your business, you can just get at me at specmanagement.com, or you can check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Spec Management. All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, Hayden.